Alright guys, Tactical Bit here today, and I'm rocking the Lightning Pandas jersey, baby, if you can see that, because they look like Europe's best hope right now after a crazy day one of CWL Las Vegas, the first Black Ops 4 event of the season. I'll probably make a video a little bit down the line talking about the issues with the game in its current state, at least from a spectator standpoint, but today I'm just going to talk about the results, try and skim over a few things, because a lot of things went down, of course, crazy entertaining matches, and I made a few notes on a couple of the matches. I set up until like 4:30 to watch this, but the games were still going on until like 7, 8 a.m. my time, so I didn't get to see everything, but hopefully I can provide context on some stuff. I'd like to thank you guys for 5,000 subscribers, first of all. I mentioned in yesterday's video we were nearing in, and now we're at 5,100, so what can I say? Thanks a lot, and I guess I'm gonna try and set like a target of 6,000 by Christmas. I feel like that's achievable, but enough with the sentimentals. Like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. And let's get into the video. So I'm just going to go through each pool in turn, starting with Pool A. Basically as expected, right? Mindfreak go in here. It comes out literally as the power rankings went for God Gamepedia. EUnited the best, 100 Thieves, then Reciprocity, then Mindfreak. So I guess you could say there's not too much to say about this, but Mindfreak were an interesting squad because the first map against EUnited, they beat them 250 to 80. It was crazy. They did one of those maps they did to OpTic. You remember when the fighter had his famous quote on St. Marie, and they just trashed OpTic on that map? It's kind of a similar thing here. They just come out the gates really hot. They lose a 6-5 S&D, which maybe they should have won, and they lose the series. Reciprocity really put up a fight against 100 Thieves. They won a really convincing search and should have won the control in that. I think they're up 2-0, and 100 Thieves made like the mini reverse sweep within the control. But yeah, I guess it went as expected. EUnited and 100 Thieves just outplayed Reciprocity. I think it's to be expected when they haven't been on American soil so long. And yeah, 100T and EUnited, arguably top 3 teams in the game coming in here. So not too much you can say about that. Mindfreak ended up losing 3-1 to Reciprocity. I believe Rec made like a 100-point comeback or something like that to finish out the day. So these should effectively be the final standings going into the bracket, unless the open team can cause an upset. And I think I'll actually go back to talk about the open bracket for a little bit, because there's a lot of interesting results here. I'm not going to go through every single team and like the team names, but Imperial, like the old Epsilon, they could be playing against Enigma 6, which is Frosty's team. Effectively how this works, they're currently in round 5. Whoever wins this will play in round 6. Whoever wins that gets into pools, and I'm not sure how it's determined who gets in what pool. I've never really figured that out. So Sween could be playing against Revenge. FaZe Black, who made a full sail comeback on Killer's team Raised by Kings. They were down 5-0, they bring the comeback to 6-5, crazy scenes. They could be playing against Heretics, which would be a really interesting matchup to see who makes pools there. I think both teams are easily good enough to be in pools, so it's a bit of a shame they have to play each other. Then you have Tainted Minds potentially playing against Mazer, which is Teddy Rex's team. So these are the ideas of teams that may be going into pool play. And yeah, someone like FaZe Clan Black or even Heretics could probably mix it up in some of these pools, but I guess we have to expect that they're going to go like this, which means that EUnited are going to have the first seed. They're going to play second place in Pool C, which we will go on to in just a second. So moving on to Pool B, this is where things got crazy, man. Like, I was talking shit on Evil Geniuses, I'm not gonna lie. I did not think these guys were gonna be good. Starting with the first series, LG beat Red Reserve 3-1. This was, you know, I was a bit disappointed. Obviously, I'm a Red Reserve fan. They got 0-3 on the day, which is just tragic. But when I was watching this, LG just looked super good. Gunless was just shredding everyone, which we haven't really seen online like we did at the start of Infinite Warfare, but no surprises really. Red just lost both hard points, and arguably could have made the comeback in the second one, but it didn't happen in the end. And then we had that series versus, you know, EG play UYU. And when EG comfortably dealt with UYU, I was like, you know, damn, EG could be decent here, because UYU looked really decent. I said decent so many times, but they looked really good yesterday in the play-in tournament. And then LG deal with them 3-0 as well. So it's like, okay, maybe they're not so good. Then Red play EG. 3-2. They got reverse swept. So tragic. They dominated the first 2 maps. The casters were like, damn, you know, Red Reserve. Okay, they lost to LG. You know, they're making adaptations. They're coming back into it. No, none of that. Get reverse swept. Last map, it was, last map they were down 5-2, brought it back to 5-5, and then just, they had a lightning strike, and Scraps had like a drone squad. They called in the lightning, got a hit marker, which has been unfortunate. He called in his drone squad, and then they just ran into the stack, and Saints got a 3-piece from a little corner. But for some reason, they decided to run into the stack at A rather than rotating it, even though they had score streaks, which would be much better use outside, surely. So very questionable decisions from them, and maybe they just went on full tilt and end up you losing to UIU later in the day. Didn't get to see that matchup. LG versus EG was really the impressive one for me, because LG were looking super strong, and then EG managed to come up and beat them. I think I made a couple of notes on what people were saying on this one. Like, yeah, LG were up 120 points game one, and EG ended up pulling it off. So, damn, dude, like, EG, fair enough. Revan's just the best coach in the world, apparently, and I'm interested to see what these guys will do, because EG, of course, the old EG squad that won champs, they go over to Envy. We'll go on to them in a second, haven't had the best results. And then EG are now living it up, you know. So that's the squad of Zotic, Goonjar, Saints, Fellow, and Royalty. And Exotic. Going on to Port. So anyway, that's pretty tragic, which means that Red Reserve will guaranteed be in losers bracket. Whatever the open bracket team does, they're for sure going into losers. Honestly, it might be better for them going into losers round 2 rather than losers round 3, because the way it works is if you're in 4th slot, you go into the second round of losers, 5th slot, you go into first round. But sometimes going into losers round 3 isn't where you want to be, because you're not warmed up at all when you drop in. Whereas Red Reserve, you know, they should have a relatively easy matchup in losers round 2 if that's how it goes. And then they can kind of build into the run a little bit more, which is arguably a benefit, but still, going 0-3, no many positives to be taken. Pool C, man, this is where things get crazy. This is flipped on its head. I think a lot of people, if you flip the teams 4-3-1, you'd be like, okay, that's a reasonable outcome. But not how it's going to be, man. Like, the Lightning Pandas squad, let's go. I'm so happy. This is why it shows that, like, online Call of Duty in Europe doesn't really mean anything. This team never came top 4 in a 2K or anything like that. And out of nowhere, like, bang, they're just competing with the best. They beat Straight Rippin' at the start. Like, their hardpoint looked really, really good in the second one at least, and their Search and Destroy was quality. Alex, Dave, PT just going off. Mad Cat as well. Of course, Josh adds definitely some glue to a team like that and has some experience playing with Mad Cat. So a really fun team to watch play. I'm glad they're much better than their online performances, and I really want to see how far they can go here, because definitely a very scary squad to be reckoned with, and taking down FaZe is no mean feat at all, even though they did lose to Envy in a 3-1 fashion. But it's really interesting, because this, I don't know if this is like early game kind of randomness that we sometimes see, or exactly what's going on, but pretty much every team beat each other. Maybe they have different strengths in terms of their map sets, which I'm not fully aware of yet, but you know, a couple months down the line we'll fully understand which teams are better at which maps or whatever. But yeah, FaZe beat Envy 3-2, bit of a surprising result in my opinion. I thought Envy were going to be better than what they were. I just had too much faith, I guess. Hook only had like just above a 1.0, which, you know, it's still respectable, but it's not quite the 1.35 plus that Scump has been putting up, which is, you know, fair enough. So yeah, very interesting results. Straight Rippin' came out slow again. Kind of interesting how they seemed to come out slow in the play-in tournament yesterday. Like, it struggled a little bit through that first matchup, and then today they come out slow again. LP just wiped the floor with them, really, apart from that one map. And then they go on to beat FaZe and Envy. So what can you even say about that? FaZe honestly looked pretty dreadful, despite the fact that they beat Envy. Like, Zuma has like a 0.75. He just doesn't seem to understand really how to play the game, and they've got a Tatch on like an AR, and Crowder or Replays, he's using an SMG, which seems a little bit out of whack to me. I'm not impressed with FaZe at all. I can't say I'm that impressed with Envy either, even though they did beat LP, who are at the top of the pool, but who cares about that when you end up being down in 3rd place? So, maybe the open bracket team can cause some upsets here. Be very interesting if FaZe Clan Black were to go into this pool, because that would be... Surely there's some conflict of interest going on there, but regardless. So, moving on to Pool D, OpTic Gaming, baby. They come out on top, pretty much what we expected. You know, OpTic in pools, name a better duo, right? They go 9-1 in map count, probably a little bit flattering, maybe slightly to them, considering there was a couple of maps definitely against Pittsburgh and against G2, which they probably should have lost if the other team didn't misplay. So they played Pittsburgh, first of all, definitely more competitive than a lot of people were thinking. Pittsburgh really put up a fight in that first hardpoint, but it seems like vintage OpTic, to be honest, right now, where in the start of a hardpoint, it's close, it's back and forth, like what we used to see in Black Ops 3 Infinite Warfare. And then towards the end, when it gets like that 150 mark, then they start pulling away and get the victory. So I'm sure that's a good sign for OpTic fans, but it's hardly dominating like maybe you would have seen from these guys online. We'll have to see a little bit further down the line in the tournament. They do lose one map to Spice that we'll get to in a second. Splice beat G2 3-2. They're up 2-0. I think they nearly got kind of reverse swept, but kind of dominated the map 5 a little bit. So G2 looking maybe better than I expected, even though they only won 3 maps. They were somewhat competitive on the hard points, but at the same time, Chino really wasn't playing particularly well. And yeah, the search and destroy wasn't as good as what you'd expect from that team. Splice's was really solid, and you know, being in a pool with OpTic and Splice is not an easy feat for a team like G2. Pittsburgh also did pretty well. They ended up coming out on top against G2. And yeah, Splice beat Pittsburgh as well. So kind of what we expected here, but maybe Pittsburgh a little bit better than G2. Maybe that experience from the play-in tournament yesterday helped. And you know, G2 maybe just not as good as people were expecting. The big series, OpTic versus Splice. This was a fun one, man. I didn't get the time to watch this, but people were saying it was superb. I'm going to go watch the VOD after this. And yeah, so people were saying LG versus EG was a good series. Straight versus Envy was a really good one. This one, I think, was a lot of people's pick of the bunch. And yeah, so the first map, OpTic versus Splice, super tightly fought affair. OpTic came out on top in the hard point. Splice kind of dominated the search, I think like 6-2 on gridlock, something like that. Super tight control, and then OpTic made a nice comeback on the last map to end up taking the game. So I think that's OpTic's clutch factor is probably one of the key things to note here, because OpTic in World War II, we know what it was like. The clutch factor was non-existent. You just have to watch FaZe versus OpTic at stage 1 to see that. And yeah, so against, I think it was G2, in that third map control when they were down 8-15 kills in like on the 2-2 round to potentially lose the map. TJ pulls out his war machine. They get a few kills here or there, and G2 basically did throw it away. But definitely the clutch factor was there to some extent from OpTic. And yeah, pretty impressive situation from them to win both those series 3-0, despite those really close games. And to beat Splice 3-1 as well, when 3 of the maps were super, super tight, is... You know, some people would say it's flattering, but at the same time, maybe it's showing that element of clutch factor. Definitely, they're not incredibly dominant, but maybe Splice are much better than we think. Maybe when OpTic come against and play EUnited and 100 Thieves later in the tournament, Splice actually might have put up a better fight than those guys. Who knows what the situation's looking like on LAN. So those are the pools for now. We'll go through the schedule in a second, but firstly I want to have a look at the stats. This is courtesy of JP and Doug on Twitter. I'll link them down in the description box below. Those guys do so much work towards this. I'm sure they'd appreciate a follow. They probably won't be watching this, but yeah, they put the time in to give us these kind of stats that we kind of take for granted at times, because a lot of this had to be manually updated, I think, because the game isn't really doing that stuff yet. These are the respawn statistics. Arcetes, Slasher, Scump, Gunless, like, Dashy. These guys were going off. Exotic as well, just demolishing. Major Maniac, just kind of want to scroll through. This is the damage per game stat, or damage per minute stat, or something like that. Damage per 10 minutes, I don't know. But yeah, just demolishing kids. Gunless, damn, 6,000 damage, mate. Calm down. So anyway, yeah, Parasite at 1.22, Alex on LP. Definitely some really impressive stats here. I just want to scroll through. Maybe you can pause the video if you're interested in seeing something specific, but definitely some solid play. Okay, Goonjar wasn't actually as good as I thought he was, but Exotic definitely was tearing people up. And yeah, we scroll down a little bit further. It's not looking so good for Zuma. 0.72, man. He's done it with Theory and Joe. Like, not really what you expect. And yeah, maybe enabled didn't have the best of times either. But then again, it's only day 1. We'll have to see what happens. Want to switch quickly to Search and Destroy so we can see that. You can sort by teams as well, but we don't really have the time to do that. Dashy's at a 2.23, man. I'm pretty sure this is just KD rather than EKIA. So, Jesus, man. He's really dropping a 2.2 in Search. That is unprecedented. Luca as well, 1.84. What a monster this guy's been. Like, Shox and Luca on Mindfreak were really tearing people up. I was quite impressed with them, even though they went 0-3 in pools. Exotic as well. There's no way, surely he can keep up this sort of statistics. Parasite must be fuming if EG go on to do well. Dave as well. Like, it's really nice to see him back up there. PT at a 1.5. Alex at a 1.46. It's the really thing about Europe. This is the thing about European teams. If they can consistently win their Search and Destroys, they're a really scary proposition. So this is something to watch out for in coming days. 1.42 for Jerd, despite him having like a 0.89 in respawn. And Luke had like a 1.84 here, despite him having a negative in respawn as well. So that's really quite interesting. But anyway, let's go on to the pools. So this is what the final pools look like. And we can expect, when the open bracket team comes in, not too many upsets and shifts to be had. Maybe a team like Heretics, team like FaZe Clan Black can do something. But honestly, in a 5v5 setting, I think most of these will probably be set in stone. So before I go, let's have a look at the schedule for tomorrow, if the Call of Duty World League Twitter ever wants to load. So on the mainstream, Straight Ribbon versus the open bracket team. It's pretty tragic, to be honest, because from like 10 p.m. my time until like 2:30 in the morning, or like 4 a.m. or something like that, it's basically just open bracket teams getting beaten up on, which, okay, it's rather tragic. But yeah, this is what's happening on the stream. So OpTic are playing the open bracket team at 5 p.m. PT, if you're interested, and that's basically the schedule. And then we start with the winners and losers bracket as things kick off on Saturday. So hope you guys enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, subscribe if you're new, all that good stuff. And I'll be back again this time tomorrow to break down the goings on the incredible Saturday and see who has made it to Championship Sunday. So thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.